Yeah, it's live.
Cool. On your YouTube it is?
Yeah.
Very cool. All right.
So I guess if anybody's anybody's actually watching this live, I'm Sam Bezak, otherwise known as SamWiseTheBeard, and I'm here joined with Dylan of DDUBS Gaming. Is that right? DDUBS
Heyo.
Gaming. Cool.
DDUBS Gaming. Yes. Glad to be here.
Cool, man. Well, we were just going to talk about some of the stuff that we saw in the Destiny 2 reveal. As most people know, I'm really into Destiny. I play it pretty much daily. Dylan, on the other hand, was not amused by Destiny's feeble attempt to create content. And
Well, you put it that way.
yeah, I mean, well, I'm not amused by it either. Don't worry.
Oh,
So
okay, cool.
that's what I'm hopeful of. What's to come with Destiny 2. So yeah. So the other day, Destiny 2 reveal, a lot of cool stuff. Some new weapons, new supers. Some much needed changes to how guns work and how weapons are divvied up between people.
Yeah, I like the system overall.
Yeah, I like some of the new changes too. Do you have any like specific things that you wanted to talk about with regards to what you saw? And maybe like somebody like you who's a little bit more well versed in Destiny, I can kind of get my points on it.
Yes. So there's a couple of things. Let's talk majorly. I like what you brought up about just progression in general. I from what I saw in the conference, okay, and this is me being kind of just skeptical as I am, is
Sure.
that it was done fairly well. However, I felt like the presentation alone was just to be flashy. It was very like, look at this is cool, blah blah blah. At one point, the warlock near the end jumps off of a little platform of a hallway and just kind of does like this superhero landing, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
It was like this arms out thing, and I was like, why? Like it's cool, but it's cool for like 5 seconds. And my thing with that was that, you know, how are you going to evolve from that? And the same thing with like the progression of the character. You know, I was like, I didn't see anything. Later on, I saw a couple screen grabs of how you can level up with like different trees. I thought that was actually really cool, the way that they did that. So yeah, you got anything on that?
Yeah, I think just to address the little cinematic of the warlock jumping down, I think what that was supposed to do is emulate a new perk. So like some of the, I haven't seen really any of the you know, because like obviously there's a hunter, a warlock, and titan class, and it seems that these subclasses have like a new perk. So the titan has kind of like it's kind of like the big barrier that you can put up in Overwatch. It's kind of like a see-through, like your teammates can shoot through it, but like the enemies can't shoot through it.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like a wall barrier that the Titan can make. But the Warlock has this thing where it kind of, from what it looked like in all the videos I saw, it was kind of like a regeneration field. It was like if you were standing in it, like you'd regenerate health immediately.
You mean the white glowy area of effect looking thing?
Yeah. And I think that the animation that you're referring to is actually the Warlock using that perk. Like, because like apparently that's the animation that the Warlock does, is kind of like jumps downwards, kind of looking like Superman hitting the ground, you know, like it's a little cheesy, but I guess that's what it actually is. But I totally get what you're saying about, you know, and I guess that's what they have to do. They have to kind of like build it up and make it exciting, I guess, with as big of a community as Destiny is. Like,
I mean, but it felt like such a disconnect for me, where they're like, oh, this is really cool. We have all these weapons and this and that. They're promising just this ridiculous amount of stuff, but they're and arguably so, they're showing us like a very narrow path of it, which I think is the right move. But what my I guess not issue, but what my I don't know what I'm questioning is just the longevity of it. You know, they're talking about clans. Clans is huge. That's the thing that perked me up the most. I was like, whoa, I can make a clan with like 6 people and tell everyone to GTFO. You know, like that's pretty cool. But to me, I when I was watching it, I was like, you know, they're just making it as flashy as possible, and I hope that they can deliver on these promises.
Sure.
Because that's to me what happened with the first one. You know, that was a big thing. I was expecting this huge, amazing, ridiculous thing, and blah blah blah. And I get about 15 hours into it. I'm like, yeah, you know, I'm having a great time, but I'm lying to myself.
No, dude, I totally get it. They, you know, when Destiny first came out, there was like a lot of really big promises. The most of which was, I remember hearing all about like unlimited weapon customization, like crazy, like this crazy amount of different ways that you could adjust your weapon. And what it ended up turning out to be was that like each time you get a weapon, it has like a tree of perks, and it's all RNG, or like a random selection of the perks. You know, that was a lot different than the, hey, like you can customize everything about this weapon and make it your own. You know, they kind of took advantage of, like, they weren't necessarily lying, like there's a ton of different combinations of perks. It's just, it wasn't customizable. Like there's one tree that is customizable in weapons, and it's annoying. They've implemented a lot of different things in the past where you could like re-roll your weapon, and then they got rid of it.
Thank you.
And it's
like, oh, they got rid of that. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, they got rid of it like almost immediately, because like people were, you know, people would get a weapon, like you'd get a weapon that's like really good, but you'd get a bad roll on it, so you'd spend like 20 minutes re-rolling it. As long as you had enough of the consumable currency to do so. You could continuously re-roll it, and then you'd end up with a whole bunch of people who had god weapons and like other people that didn't. And I get what issue they had, but I mean, it was cool to be able to customize it.
Yeah, and that's cool. I'll give you that. But the previous point was that there were all these promises that were, you know, kind of overlooked for a little bit, and I feel like I honestly feel like people were drinking the sauce. You know, I mean, I've been there too, where it's I'm like, yo, this game is the best thing I've ever played in my life, and people are like, yo, you are blind, and I admit that, you know. But like for instance, okay, you're talking about re-rolling weapons, right? One thing that made me absolutely hate multiplayer Crucible was the Thorn. It's like, why introduce this? Why have people work so hard for these weapons? And then RNG, you know, I'm not even gonna talk about RNG. Why have all these weapons with all these balanced stats and stuff, and then have something that's gonna kill you 3-shot no matter what with, you know, returnable damage? It's like, I feel like that was a game breaker, like just in general. And then, you know, with all the tweaking and stuff, like the hand cannons would be amazing one week, scout rifles would be amazing next week, and just in general, some of the stuff they did, I was like, why? Why are you putting us through this as a dedicated fan base?
Sure. No, that's definitely been the issue. There's always been like a meta of weapons that, you know, the top players use, and then everybody kind of follows suit. Like right now, the meta is, unfortunately, because they brought back Icebreaker, which I don't know if you.
Oh, yeah, the exploded one,
which was the stupidest move that Destiny could have made in quite a long time, because they completely changed the special ammo, like how it functions. So it went from, you know, special ammo, you spawned with it, and then it changed to you'd spawn with it and then it would go away, and then they would adjust how the special ammo spawned. Like special ammo has been the biggest problem with Destiny. Like, because then there's like a sniper meta, and then they change snipers, and then there's a shotgun meta, and then they change how shotguns fit in, and now it's sidearm meta, and now they changed it again. And so they changed it to now when you start the game, you spawn with special ammo, and then upon death, it goes away, but special ammo respawns every minute. So it's actually it's pretty good. It's a really good balance of like, if you know how to play the game, you play with your primary, and then when in certain situations you can use special rather than I'm now leading with my special, which is what the problem was in the past.
Okay.
But then along with this change, they added a weapon that automatically regenerates ammo. So it's like,
well, yeah, with the icebreaker is what you mean.
Yeah. So the icebreaker
totally
regenerates
game
ammo.
breaking.
So you're playing games like Trials of Osiris where
that would aggravate me.
Special ammo is really valuable, especially with the change. But now you've given some people the opportunity, which it's a random drop. You know, you're completing a bounty. It's random. I haven't gotten it yet. I've also not been trying to get it, but you know, it's still random. So now people had the ability to play Trials of Osiris and regenerate special weapon ammunition within 10 seconds of starting the round. Whereas if you don't have the icebreaker, you don't get it unless a special ammo box spawns.
Okay.
So it's already lopsided for teams that have it. And, you know, say what you will, that's playing the game. But like, I think it's a bullshit way of playing the game because now people are at a significant disadvantage. It's not about how skilled you are. It's about who happens to have special ammo, which was the problem in the first place. So they took a problem, fixed it, and then immediately ruined it again. So
interesting.
It's super annoying. And I'm hoping that the changes in D2 will help fix that issue. And I can get into that in a minute. But
cool. Just for Icebreaker specifically, because that was probably the only thing I bought from Xur, because you know I got out kind of early. But
sure.
With how it works with the regenerating special ammo and how annoying that is, don't you think that Bungie could like just put out a newsletter and say, hey, this gun is banned, like if like you can't even equip it and go into this game mode? Do you think like that would be a good fix? Or
I don't know, man, like because the way it was, they had gotten rid of it. Like they got rid of I mean, they didn't get rid of it, but like when they changed the light levels, because that's one of the things that they've done is they've increased the light level caps with DLCs. They made it so that a lot of the original weapons like Vex Mythoclast and Thorn and Icebreaker, they didn't move on. Like they didn't increase the light. So you in essence couldn't use them. Okay. You know, you could use them on your own. Like you could use them in Crucible, like normal Crucible where light level didn't matter. But like competitive game modes like Trials of Osiris and Iron Banner, you couldn't use them. And then they added them back in. So it's kind of like they'd be doing this flip-flopping of like going back and forth, and then they're like restricting weapon types. Like it kind of would ruin the game, I guess, more than it already is. So
I'm so glad I got out of this. I mean, you know, like it's a pretty game. It plays pretty well, but with all the stuff behind the scenes and reading all the weekly, monthly patches, I just on top of just a whole. It's like an MMO, you know, like you have to stay current with it. I feel like if you miss like 2 weeks or something, like you travel or something, it's like you have so much that you missed out on. It's ridiculous. And I think that Destiny 2 feels daunting with how much that they promised, you know what I mean? However, in Destiny 1, we saw that wasn't quite the case. So I'm kind of, you know, I'm on the fence about that. Like I said, I'm probably going to pre-order it just maybe to play a beta and then cancel it if I don't like it. I might get back into it. I might like it altogether. So I don't know where I sit on that. But it seems like with your weapon balancing issue of this one, you say how many times they go back and forth, they change it. I did watch a video where they talked about, well, they actually mentioned it in the live stream that they're going to have different classes for different slots now in regards to, like, for instance, your primary could be between a scout rifle and a hand cannon, but your special, your special slot is where you'll only find a shotgun and a sniper rifle or something along the lines of that.
Yeah, the power weapons and
okay, so they're classifying it as a power weapon, but then they have legendary weapons as well still, correct?
Yeah. Well, okay. I mean, legendary, I guess they are a bit better. So it's kind of like you have like you have white weapons, which that's what you start the game with, and they're for the most part bullshit. Like you never want to use them. Like the perks aren't really good. And then it was green, and then it turns to blue. Blue is just like a little bit
I
better.
remember those,
But
yeah,
then
like
the
rare.
legendary or the purple, that's kind of like the weapons that you want to use primarily, and then you have exotics, which you get like one, and they might have like something special, something that's significantly different from legendary or blue weapons.
Gotcha.
In terms of the way that they're going to be restructuring the weapons, I think it's definitely a good move in the right direction. Don't get me wrong, like this,
I like it.
So like the latest patch in Destiny 1, it's actually probably the best patch that they've had. There's still like the slight issue with sticky grenades and with Icebreaker, but overall, it places an emphasis on using your primary weapon and kind of like getting into a firefight, you know, on an equal playing field rather than somebody having a power weapon, which is what it is, like a sniper rifle or a shotgun. Okay. And with Destiny 2, it'll be really nice because they have these power weapons and the ammunition for it only spawns every so often. Plus, only the person who picks it up gets ammunition.
Okay.
Which is pretty cool. So I like to think that they're moving in the direction that like Halo moved towards with Halo 2 and 3, kind of having these power weapons. Like they're taking where the power weapons would spawn on the map in Halo to you already have the weapon, you just need ammunition. So you can still play what you want to play, you just need to be able to get ammunition. That was my biggest problem with Halo, is because I love sniping, but like it was really difficult to actually get your hands on a sniper rifle.
Oh yeah.
You know, whereas now you already have your hands on the sniper rifle, you just need the ammo. So cool. I like the way it's moving. I
think it's interesting the way they did it. As long as they don't do that BS where it's like, gosh, you probably help me out. I had a legendary weapon. It was a scout rifle.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it began with an M. It was like gray. It was like grayish color. It had like a big like 4x scope on top.
Oh, Might multi-tool. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was like I got that. That was my first one. And that was the one I wanted. Like I perused the whole like category. I was like, this is what I want. I hate the service regime. I didn't care for Galahorn really, and I really wanted the Mida. You said?
Yeah, it's Mida.
Mida. Yeah, I wanted the Mida. And I was pretty good with it. You know, I was very happy with it. I took it in, PvE, PvP. I was, like, oh, that was a just kill. That wasn't bullcrap on their end or anything like that. But what killed me was so I put it down for a little bit. Like I said, my YouTube video, go check out my YouTube channel, DDUBS Gaming, and helpless plug there. Yeah. And I came back to it when Crota came out as a raid, because I really wanted to kind of conquer it and play it for a little bit. And I found out that my Mida was completely useless because they came out with a higher light level and a better version of it. And for me to get it, I would have to grind literally for like 2 or 3 weeks just for that one weapon.
Right.
That to me was like, that happened to me. And then Taken King came out and they were like, oh, we're doing this and that. I'm like, what's the damn point if you're gonna promise like, hey, you have this great weapon? Nope. Hey, you have this great mode as an Iron Banner? Nope. You're only gonna get it for a week. So that was part of my frustration too, was like that. And I really, really hope that they don't do something like that in Destiny 2, especially with the PC base coming in. You have way more eyes and hands on this thing.
I know.
I feel like they have got to knock it out of the freaking park. Like they have no other option other than to just, full steam ahead, improvements all around.
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of issues with the grinding aspect. It kind of went both ways. When they dropped Rise of Iron, like so many people had been hoarding, because like you could do these. They implemented this 3 of coins system where you could pop coins and then it would increase the chance that you would get an exotic engram. And
I know what you're talking about.
It turned into now people were just hoarding these engrams. Once they had gotten everything that they needed, they were hoarding them and waiting until Rise of Iron would drop, and then that would be like an easy way to increase your light level so that you could be more prepared for a raid, which I kind of thought was a big issue with Destiny, was that it was really just this big race to get to a certain light level to play the raid. And then you'd get people that were done with their light leveling, you know, within a week or within a day or two, even if they had hoarded enough engrams. And then now, you know, it's just this big race to get to the ability to be able to play the raid. You ignore the campaign. You don't give a shit about the campaign really, because you're just trying to increase your light as quickly as possible. And then when you get into game types like Iron Banner and Trials of Osiris, it's like there's this huge gap of people who had hoarded engrams and are now top light, and then people who either didn't hoard engrams or just didn't have enough time to be able to play full time to get enough. Now they're at a significant disadvantage. And you're taking game types that are already putting people at disadvantages, like Trials of Osiris. Like if you don't play Trials all the time, you get shit on. Like now you're taking a light level enabled game type and making it so that people have like a ton of light and people that don't. And it's kind of shitty. Like the way that they're doing the leveling for D2, they need to make sure that it's like able to be done in a reasonable time for everybody, and that there's not ways to immediately increase light or increase your power, basically. Right. You know, I think that they're going to implement a couple new things, and I'm hopeful for the best, but who knows? You know.
Yeah, and with a community like this, which they admitted multiple times in the press conference, is it's a community from beginning to end, and what that says to me is that community is people who are on constantly. You know, those are the people who are there for every event, and they're super excited. They're refreshing their web browser, see what kind of patches they get, and this and that. But now with Destiny 2, they're promising all these advantages and whatnot, and all these people, especially for PC, are probably just, you know, crapping themselves, getting so excited over this, which will get them the quick buck, granted, but will it keep a base of people there long enough for the project to exceed the 10 years that they planned out originally? Because when they were given the presentation, I was checking my box, like, okay, that's good. And they said, we have one raid that we're working on. I went, oh, that's not good, because, you know, if you're still working on it, and, you know, like I think Destiny 1, I think the vanilla, I don't think we even had the raid on launch.
No. And I think that was,
I remember waiting.
That was a lot to do with the light leveling, you know.
Okay.
Like they wanted to give people enough time, and they've done that since, but, you know, with the disadvantages I mentioned earlier, kind of.
Right. And so to me, looking at this as somebody who's outside the community, I see a lot of, you know, potential red flags just for that reason, as to the company's going to be fine regardless. You know, they're going to make their money. They're going to have they might have microtransactions. We'll see. You know, the game's going to live on for a while. But what I'm talking about is a reputation. You know, are people going to stop believing in Bungie? And is this the last straw? Like for me, the last straw was Crota and the changes that they made and whatnot. And then they came out Taken King, and I heard so many people just, you know, say Taken King's the best iteration, and, you know, this and that. I had already, you know, moved on myself.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, is just like the Rising of the Phoenix. Are they going to come back, you know, better and better, you know, bigger and better than ever with all these promises? And I think my biggest point I made in my YouTube video was the cross compatibility between the generations. I think that was the big slowdown. Now that they have the tech of the Xbox One, the PS4, and, you know, they've been around for a while, I honestly think they can make it all happen. But how well will they make it happen? That's where my stipulation comes in. That's why I'm so critical on this, just because it's been around for a while, and it's one of the biggest names in gaming ever. And so I once again, I want to say I want to play this game. I think it looks very good. The aesthetics, the weapons, the leveling up, it looks awesome. But I hope that it's not one of those that's going to be, you know, here and there within a year.
Yeah. No, I totally understand your issues with it. Then I think that the number one problem with Destiny is just it felt like they had promised a bunch of content, and then there just wasn't any. Like there was these huge dry spells, especially with after the Taken King. Like Taken King was pretty big, and the raid was I personally hated the raid because we spent months. Yeah, we spent months trying to beat it. Like it's definitely the most difficult raid out of all of them. I mean, Vaults of Glass was difficult at the beginning, but that was just because a lot of people didn't really understand how raids worked, you know, and like unless you played games like World of Warcraft where you would have raids and stuff like that, like a lot of people, myself included, because I never played those games, didn't really understand like how a raid functions and like what's the point of doing it. And then we got to Taken King, and it was just very mechanic heavy and very team focused, which was cool, but it made it so like if one person died, like it was a wipe. Like there was really no hope of being able to complete it unless all of you guys were there. Like some people have done it since, but at the time it was super difficult because the light level, the power of the enemies were higher than you. So you just got destroyed or whatever. But after the Taken King, there was such a huge portion of time where there just wasn't any content, and nobody really knew why. Like there's no question that they have the funding and they like were trying to make things good, but you know, it was rough. You know, you'd get like the Festival of the Lost, which was like a Halloween event, and then they had Sparrow Racing League and the Valentine's Day events. Like those were cool, but then they started doing it where like they're recycling it. You know, like the first time Sparrow Racing League came around, that was like the big thing. Like that was super cool. It was something new. It was fresh. It was like we're taking a first-person shooter game and now turning it into a racing game. Like that was pretty cool. And then they started doing Festival of the Lost the second time, and then they did the Valentine's one, and then they rebranded, or not rebranded, but like recycled SRL, and it was just boring. Like I barely even played SRL because it was just like it's lost its allure. You know, and then Rise of Iron came out, and the content was like you were done with it in a week, and the raid was cool. It was more manageable than King's Fall, which is a Taken King raid. But you know, if it wasn't for the community of Destiny, like Destiny would be totally dead. Like there's no question in my mind. Like we have people like, you probably don't know any of them, but like Lucky and Buttwipe, King Gathalion, Professor Broman doing like Guardian Con. Like last year I went to Destiny Community Convention in Florida. Yeah, and it was super cool because you take like a game and have a convention completely dedicated to fans. And now and they started doing the charity for St. Jude's Medical Hospital. They raised like over $500,000. Like that was the big thing. Like that's community. That's like what Destiny is. And I'm super hopeful that Destiny 2 will have a lot of content in ways that's replayable and not dry and boring, because I think that this community deserves it for sure. Like we stuck around.
Yeah, you talk about the test of time, man. They've definitely stuck through it. But yeah, so high hopes for that. But I want to hear. So we talked about, you know, I guess our expectations, dreams, and whatnot. What did you see in the presentation, the conference itself, that got you personally excited? Because I have a couple things that I know that you're just going to go off on and just really give more broad points. But I gotta say, like, just in general, the weapons and the aesthetics, just the aesthetics of the whole thing looks so cool to me. I love how they're going even more sci-fi with it. It's on a new engine. It looks pretty good, you know, for what they showed. But you know, I'm a casual, so I want to hear what you guys say about that.
Well, like I mentioned earlier, like I'm a huge multiplayer player. That's like what I'm into, and I think honestly that's the thing that's been keeping Destiny alive, is the fact that people still play multiplayer online. I'm super excited. They had mentioned changes to how Crucible actually works, with now every game mode being 4v4.
Right. Yeah. What's your take on that?
I'm super happy about it.
Okay.
So like I said, I play a lot of Crucible. I play a lot with a lot of really good people, and I've found like I perform really well in the 6v6 game types.
Okay.
And then when it gets to the end game, Trials of Osiris, that's 3v3 elimination. I personally struggle with that. And I think it's primarily just because it panders to people who like and I guess that's the point of it, but like you have to be like really patient and calculated, or you just have to be really freaking good.
Okay.
Like, because it's either you have to wait and play the waiting game and like thinking about it, or you just like get steamrolled by teams that like play Trials of Osiris for 8 hours a day, 4 days out of the week. You know, it's crazy how much of a divide there is from when you're playing 6v6 and you can like run around and you can have a good time and you can, you know, perform decently well. And then if you want to like go and try and do Trials of Osiris and maybe get to the lighthouse, you're like, it's good luck, man. Like, unless you play all the time, like you're not going to the lighthouse. Okay. And it sucks. It's not a representation, in my opinion, of skill. It's a representation of people being good at elimination or just being like way better than other people. And the 4v4, I think it will kind of close that gap.
Okay.
Like, yeah, it'll kind of make it easier to transition, and the good players will still be good, but like it will make it easier for people who don't have the opportunity to play Trials of Osiris all the time, because that's a big deal with matchmaking, especially with like the raids and strikes like Nightfall and Crucible. Like, I'm super lucky. I'm part of this group that's on a website called The 100, and it's a group that I've been with since like a couple months after Destiny came out, and they're like an awesome group of people that I consider to be my friends, and we play all the time. So we have the opportunity to play with people who are good in their own right, people who are good at like campaign and raid stuff, and then you have people who are like tip of the spear Crucible players. But like for people who don't have the opportunity to play with others, it makes jumping into trials really shitty. Like, it's not fun. You just get steamrolled, and it's unfortunate because then people don't get to enjoy part of the game. Like, I've never even been to the lighthouse, and I played for 3 years, and I'm like, I play Crucible all the time. Like, there's still a part of Destiny that I've never experienced.
That's pretty cool.
Like, in my opinion, that kind of sucks. Like, I'd like to be able to experience it sometime, but like, it seems like an insurmountable mountain at this point.
Gotcha. So. Okay. What I meant by that was, it's cool that you're a very dedicated player. You've been with it since day one, and even before then, and there's still something that's out there. But kind of like you said earlier, is you know, as much as, you know, I may have hated on Bungie, you know, they made an amazing just group of stories to kind of tell, like on the side of, you know, we started here, we add this, we did that, we're getting a little better, but the hardcore is going to follow all this, and like you said earlier, it's really hard to kind of like bridge the gap there, because you have quite a few people like me who, I mean, I was really into it for about 4 or 5 months. Then I dropped off, and I got kind of back on for a couple weeks, and then I hard quit. I was done. And it's like, you have now this dedicated fan base of people who, you know, are going for the lighthouse or who play daily, and then you got all these people saying, "Ooh, it looks shiny." So best of luck to them on that. I think the multiplayer itself worked pretty well already from when I played it. And I played the alpha and the beta, actually, and I got the game. And it ran pretty well. I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. And, you know, it's been tested, and now they have what is it? BlizzNet? Is that what it's called?
I think that's for PC. That's like
that's just for PC support. You're right, but
that's where it's going to be able to be downloaded from. So
well, in general, they got really good servers that work for the consoles, and now they got BlizzNet for, you know, PC players. So I have no qualms or worries about the multiplayer. I think it's going to be really, really good. But it's really, I keep coming back to this point, but it's the longevity of the whole product.
Big time. Yeah, I think one of the things that hopefully they can change, again, the content issue is the biggest one. I think that they need to do a better job of storytelling. Because the thing is, yeah, like the lore behind Destiny is actually awesome. It's like really, really good. The lore behind like what the Vault of Glass is, and like just the story behind it is like super awesome, but no one knows about it because the lore isn't in the game.
You got to go out of your way.
You do, and it's just a weird way that they chose to do the story. Like it wasn't really a campaign; it was more like a bunch of different stories put together with no real resolution.
Yeah,
you know, like in Halo, like because in Destiny, the Traveler is like I get it's like the point of Destiny. So like the Traveler came, provided its light, whatever. You know, you look at like Halo. Halo was about the Halo worlds.
Yes.
And from the first minute of Halo, you're on Halo.
Mm-hmm.
You're exploring what Halo is, and you get to experience it. With Destiny, I don't know what the hell the Traveler is. We never even saw it.
And now they're trying to steal it.
Yeah, like you see it when you're in the tower, but that's it.
All the time.
Like, yeah, you never go to it. You never go inside of it. You never like really hear any story other than the Traveler is here to give you light against the darkness.
Mm-hmm.
That is Destiny. And it's like, what the fuck? Like, what kind of game is this?
Right.
You know, like make a story, give people a reason to invest their time into the story and like understand what's going on, and it will create the longevity will create itself.
Yeah.
You know, give us a way to understand what the story is about in the game. I don't want to leave my console. I don't want to go online and read about it. I will anyways, but I want to be able to like understand why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Right.
So,
well, yeah, I mean, okay, so I really liked your example of Halo, but so in my opinion, from a storytelling standpoint, one of the greatest games that I've ever played is The Last of Us, because I'm not sure if you played it, but The Last of Us is like from beginning to end, it shells out the world and it tells you a very broad spectrum, and it gets very narrow by the end of it. So it kind of builds a world. It tells you, hey, this is a dire situation. You know, here's the timeline. This is like, you know, in the future, in the past, whatever. And they did an unbelievable job of just kind of making you care for the character first, giving you the world, and then just letting you loose. And I feel like that is kind of the direction they're going with too. You know, like you're invested. You have your hero, which I guess your hero is going to get wiped now. Like you have to make a new one, I guess. But I mean, you know, besides that, it's like you care. You know, you've been at this tower for 3 years. It's like your hub, it's your home, and now it's getting invaded. You're getting, you know, flushed out, and you have to start over. And it's starting to build. It's giving you the building blocks to start to care more. And I think that that's cool that they're not only making it as a better story, but they're also saying, hey, we screwed up bad. We didn't even like the way it came out. So we're going to try something new and see what happens. And I think it's really telling that they're willing to take that extra step and try something like that.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a cool thing about Bungie. I think that they've been very community focused, and they've definitely done a lot to like listen to what everybody is saying, because I feel like the community has like a pretty strong voice. You know, it's kind of cool because like the developers are like part of the community, which I feel might be a little bit different from some other games. It's kind of like with the way that like Twitch is and how popular it is. It's almost like they become people that you like know.
Right.
You like. There's a lot of streamers that I watch, and it's almost like I'm friends with them because like I've met them and I talk with them in their chat, and like it's kind of the same thing with how Bungie is working. They do like these like stream reveals. They have like a weekly update where they talk about what they're changing and what direction they're going. I think it's cool. I think that they're really listening to what we need. And, you know, say what you will about all the patches, but at least there are patches. At least
they're trying. Yeah.
You know, things got changed according to how the community reacted to it. Like, it kind of makes us feel like we're all part of the development. You know, that's what I do QA, and it feels the same. Like, I can test the game, give feedback on what's wrong, and then it'll be changed. And I think that's really cool. It's different from a lot of other games, and I'm really hoping that they take everything that they've learned in Destiny 1 and start applying it. I'm not saying that Destiny 2 is going to be perfect. I mean, obviously there's going to be a lot of issues. There's things that people aren't going to like. I saw something the other day about that Titan skating is gone, and that totally sucks. But who knows? Maybe it's not gone. Maybe it's in, like, the ability to do so is through a different outlet or whatever, you know. But like, not all change is bad. Not all change is good. So
exactly. Yeah.
I think some things will be cool, some things won't. But that's a new game. I mean,
let me flip the script on you there with the in regards to all the changes. Do you think that it is more the developers, I guess, their responsibility to catch these things before the actual consumer, or do you feel like it's okay for the community to point it out? Because the way I look at it is that, you know, if you can lean on your, you know, community a lot, and you can kind of work with them to make it better, but do you think that sends a message overall of unwillingness to make sure it's right the first time? Or do you think that is just what it is, and that it's a good way to keep communication open?
I honestly, you know, I don't think it's an issue, and I'll tell you why. The difference between putting out a polished game that has some issues and putting out a game that's just broken and that doesn't work or sucks, there's a huge divide between that. Like I said, like, I do quality assurance, like, for technology companies, and that happens all the time. You build the product to the best of your ability with the limited amount of minds that you have to create it, and then you test it, you find the blatant issues, and then you release it. And then occasionally people will come back. Like, you now have a wider base of people testing it and using the product, so their ideas of what's right and what's wrong are likely going to vary significantly from the developer and their standpoint, and how they feel that something will pan out in the real world. And it just gives the opportunity to have, like, a much larger amount of people actually testing the product. And people get all up in arms about that because they spend $60 on a game, and I get it. But for the most part, like, it's playable and it's fun. And sure, there were issues. There were issues with how weapons functioned and how special ammo functioned and how the game actually played. But, like, it wasn't like the game was crashing and it was unplayable. It wasn't like, oh, I didn't get my money's worth. It was like, there's some issues that might make this game more playable and more fun to play. And then the developer listened. And they started changing. You know, so I'm not for the whole idea that it needs to be 100% how you want the game to play, because, like, when you've got a community of a couple million people playing, some people are going to like some things and some people aren't going to like it. And it's like let's find the perfect balance here. You know?
On the opposite end of the spectrum, what recently came out was Horizon Zero Dawn, and from that game, which was interesting, is that the developers, they created it, they produced it, they released it, and they said this is it. And what they meant by that was there's no DLC, there's no patches, there's nothing. They got it from beginning to end. They got it gold earlier than they anticipated. They said, we're done with this project. Here you go. Enjoy, world. And that is so weird and refreshing in a weird way. But at the same time, I got to respect a community and a company that's willing to listen to their people and, you know, improve daily, weekly, what have you, on something that, especially like Destiny, it's 3 years old. You know, that's pretty impressive to see them still with that. But I've heard a lot of backlash to, oh, this is what they do for a living, they should know how to do it online. That's why I asked you that question in general.
No, I totally get what you're saying. And like, I think it's different. Like, you take a look at Horizon Zero Dawn, like, that is the game. It's Horizon Zero Dawn. It didn't have a 10-year schedule of what's going to happen. Like, you're taking a game like Destiny, it's supposed to change over time. Like, it's supposed to like be evolving, but like, you take one story like Horizon Zero Dawn, like, it should be perfect. It should. And the argument with that developers, it's their job. Like, imagine trying to please 100 million people.
Yeah, true.
It's technology. True. Like, that's why your iPhone gets a patch, because something's wrong with the iPhone, or like, it could be better. Like, imagine if Apple was just like, here's your phone. That's what you get for a couple years. Like, you're never going to get a software update. Like, you get software updates because people find issues.
Yeah, true. And
it's an evolving system. So I think people that, you know, you have a right to complain. People have a right to complain if a product isn't perfect. Like, whatever, you paid your money for it, that's cool. But like, if you just have a blatant misunderstanding of how technology and software development works, you shouldn't be talking about it. Like, you shouldn't say like, that developer, you know, bamboozled me, like that. I worked hard for that money, you know, but like, you got 1,000 hours of gameplay out of it. Sure. Like, get over it, you know?
Yeah.
So
cool.
That's how I feel about it. So
do you have any points you want to bring up to me? I only have one last big one that I really had come up to me before the stream.
No, go ahead. I'd love to hear it. For sure.
Okay. Well, my thing is, this is probably going to be, you know, a two-way thing. And what I'm most excited about, E3. Holy crap. E3 is on the way. We are in season. I got the fever. And what's next? You know what I mean? Like what in general, well, let's start narrow and go broad. So in general, what would you and me want to see with Destiny 2? What don't you want to see? And then going on beyond that, you know, what else are you thinking that we'll see, or just theories on other games showing up?
So specifically with Destiny, I think the next thing we'll probably see is some more information about Crucible. It was really limited. You know, they talked about Countdown, which is like a new objective game type, which I think Destiny really needs. I think right now they have a bunch of like pseudo game types or pseudo objective game types. Like Control it's an objective game type at its base level, but it's basically a modified version of Clash or Slayer, if you're more familiar with Halo. Yeah. And then there's Clash and, you know, maybe Rift, but Rift kind of blows in my opinion. I think we'll see a lot more. We'll see how the gameplay actually is. And that's what I'm hopeful for. I'm hopeful to see like what sort of updates they're making to Crucible, what sort of things they have planned for, like what's going to be the new Trials of Osiris. Like, is it going to be Trials of Osiris with 4 people, or is it going to be different? You know, I think we'll probably end up seeing some raid stuff, because that's like what people care about. People really care about like what the next raid is, and even if it's just like a little tidbit of what's to come, I think that'd be pretty smart. Get people hyped up for it.
Because there's only one.
Yeah, for now. Hopefully they'll have some like I don't expect a new raid every month. You know, I personally would expect a new raid maybe like every 3 to 4 months with something in between. I think that would be like a really good balance, because like you still need time to power up, you still need time to get new weapons and play the new story modes, but I don't want what happened after taking King Dappit again. It was like legitimately almost a year in between old and new content, and the only thing that kept it alive was one, that King's Fall was really difficult, and it took my group and it took like a couple months to actually do it, so it extended the lifespan, and then Trials. So I'm hoping for announcements of regularly scheduled content that we can expect for
I like
2 to 3 years.
Okay. So you want more of a timeline than anything. You want them to come out and say, hey, we have this giant plan.
Yeah.
And this incrementally, you'll see this is okay, cool.
At least for like a year or two, because like I don't want to do something and then be like, oh, it's going to be another year before I see new content. Like that sucks.
I passed an article today that I did not open up just because I didn't want to. I don't know. I didn't want my mind to go crazy, but it said that Bungie already has plans for Destiny 3, and I was just like, I'm going to avoid that altogether because that could just be a dummy article, first
Ridiculous.
of all, and second of all, I don't want to hear that they're already like, oh yeah, Destiny 2, what's that? Destiny 3 though.
Yeah, right.
Let's make
it's just a stepping stone. Yeah.
So here's what I see. Right, lights get low, the mood gets set, and I see just a like 3 or 4 minute long development trailer of just content, just ridiculous amounts of armor, guns, new what are those bikes they ride called? I forget. Sparrows. You see all your ships and all this customization. I see like a really fast paced, ridiculous trailer, and they talk about it for like 4 minutes, and then that's it. I see E3 for them as they've already had their big press conference. They've given us a lot of information. They didn't have to. I think E3 is literally going to be like a trailer or two, and then like they're going to have the same content available for streamers and captures there at the show because they don't want to show much more. And I think that would be a pretty cool move because then it's like, oh, you got me hooked. Oh, I want more. I want more. You know what I'm saying? And so I don't think we'll see a ton of Destiny just based off they already had a whole hour to show off what they wanted to show off, what they've been working on. Whether I'm right or wrong or whatever, like I said earlier, they're not going to be hurting for money anytime soon. And so I think they'll have a good showing at E3 in general.
Yeah, I hopefully they're there. Do you know if they're actually going to be E3? I don't know.
I have not. I have a screen grab of the schedule actually. Let me find that real quick. I don't know if they'll be in it, but you know how they have I think it's called Play EA or something like that they're doing like a day or two before, and they've been doing that lately. I don't know if that was Bungie's introduction to the world of the new game, but let's see, they could be in the PlayStation conference. I could see them being, if they're going to be anywhere, they're going to be there because what it's looking like is on June 11th, Sunday, we got Xbox, and that's it. But then on the schedule is actually really weird. It's color coded, so I'm just gonna go through it real quick. They got Xbox, Bethesda Softworks, Ubisoft, PlayStation, Nintendo, and so we got five conferences throughout 3 or 4 days. So with that being said, just knowing how they kind of partnered with PlayStation, they have PlayStation First stuff. I would say if it's going to be anywhere, they're either going to have a trailer there or they're going to have like their outro video, that has like all 800 games that they showed, and it's going to have like a 2-second segment of someone doing a backflip or something, but they don't have their own specific showcase because they already did. Kind of like how Blizzard has BlizzCon.
Yeah, right.
So I don't know what we'll see from, but I think it'd be smart to keep stuff under wraps. Like me personally, if I saw part of the raid, I'd be like, just because when it comes to when I did Vault of Glass the first time, I had no idea what I was getting myself into. Like I knew it was going to be big and epic. It was going to take me like an hour just to get through. permitting I had decent teammates. But
Right.
that would have taken some of the magic away from me. You know what I mean? If they explained in a trailer, if they said, "Hey, you're gonna jump through this big area of platforms that are gonna disappear, and you gotta get there fast," or they showed the valley with all those, I don't know, those floaty head dudes where you have to, if they look at you, they kill you right away. You know what I'm talking about? Or the oracles even. If they showed any of that, I would have been like, I don't want to play that raid. You know what I mean? Like I would have wanted to discovered it. That's part of the magic for me. So if they show part of the raid in that, I'm going to be like,
Yeah,
you know?
I think that the amount of the raid content that they'll show will probably be pretty low. Like
if they're showing.
Yeah, the last release for Wrath of the Machine, I knew nothing. We kind of made a pact with the rating group that we would go in blind, and then eventually it didn't exactly pan out that way. But for the most part, like I was pretty much blind on how to do it. And there's like, there's some drawbacks to that, because if you play with people that know what they're doing, then you're kind of at a disadvantage, and you're kind of relying on people because they're like gonna tell you what's going on, and then you're part of like this group that's already played it. So, but the idea of finding new content is super cool, and I'm hoping that's what happens with Destiny. I'm hoping that there will just be so much content that you have to discover it for yourself, and it'll create a lot of ability for content creators to create new and fresh content for the community, and that'll be super cool. Some people in the chat, Kevin doesn't have any idea, and Justin said that they've presented at the last several E3s, so they might. I seem to remember hearing something from King Ithalian saying that they weren't going to be there, but I could be mistaken. I'm not really sure. So
cool. Yeah. Is there I got a couple games I got written down here. I'm excited to see the E3. Is there anything else you're looking forward to, or are you just gonna be glued to that screen waiting for Destiny stuff?
I think personally I'm gonna be glued to Destiny. That's kind of how I've always been. I excuse me. I was originally a Halo fanboy, and that's what I played. And it's the same thing with Destiny. Like now that the content's kind of like drying up, more so than it has in the past, I'm kind of venturing out into some new stuff. But for the most part, I'm pretty stoked about Destiny. Seeing that reveal was like, that was a pretty big deal. That was really cool. It was really exciting. It got me motivated to play some more, and like, quite frankly, it got me excited. And I'm sure that it got a lot of other people excited. And I'm hoping it's as good as they claim it's going to be.
Yeah. So. Yeah. I mean, I'm excited for it, and I've bashed it multiple times, but I'm willing to give anything another shot. So, I got what I'm excited for mainly, and now that I write this down, I realize that I really am a Sony fanboy at heart. I'll play any system really, but I really love the exclusives, because right here what I've written down is, though I know these first two, I highly doubt we're going to see them, but if we get like a shadow drop of a trailer or something, I'll go ballistic. Final Fantasy VII Remake or Kingdom Hearts 3, though I've read and heard multiple times that the development is very far from being finished.
Yeah.
But I'm actually, I heard a little tidbit from Easy Allies. I watch one of their podcasts. I watch every podcast, but in one of them, they mentioned that Sucker Punch is going to be at E3 this year. Oh, cool. And Sucker Punch is most famous for making the Infamous series. Mm-hmm. The end of Infamous Second Son, without giving anything away, they kind of leave it open as to there could be another one in this world if you listen to some of the audio tracks and whatnot. So I'm banking on them having another Infamous, and that is bought from me personally. And then the only other thing that really piqued my interest, I'm trying to keep my list small, is I want to see more God of War really badly. Oh my gosh, I want to see more God of War so bad, but I don't at the same time, because it's that same line as I want it so badly, but I want to just experience it. I want to jump into it. Kind of like how they did they shadow dropped last year. They shadow dropped God of War and The Last of Us 2. Two of my favorite franchises. And I just lost my damn mind both times. But I think it's that excitement, that surprise of keeping it behind the curtain that allures me more than not. But those are what I think I'm going to look for. And other than that, I'm just keeping an open mind to everything.
Cool, man. It's awesome. I'm super stoked. I think I'm really excited. I'm excited for all the new things to come, especially with some of the new consoles coming out. I'm hoping that, unfortunately they've all but confirmed that Destiny 2, I guess it'll be different from on PC, which is probably one of the reasons why there won't be cross-platform compatibility, at least between consoles and PC. Consoles are locked at 30 frames per second.
Yep.
Which I'm not too bummed out about, I guess, because I've never really experienced 60 frames per second. Other than just like watching video. I've never personally played at it. But I'm not too bummed about it. Maybe Destiny 3 will definitely be at least 60 frames per second. Otherwise, they'll probably lose a lot of people. But I'm not too bummed about it. I think there's a lot of cool things to come. I'm very optimistic. So
sweet. Yeah. That's pretty much my sentiments towards it is I'm just being optimistic, and I guess we'll see what happens. It's not really in our hands, I
know. I'm curious how the beta is going to go, because I'm definitely going to play the beta. A lot of people like kind of doing that whole waiting for it to come out thing. But I'm looking forward. I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to play. Justin in the chat said that it's hard to go back from playing 60, and I don't doubt it. Because like you're playing at such a higher frame rate, and then dropping back, it's got to feel like molasses. So I'm cool. I'm cool with playing at 30 frames per second, because that's what we're playing at right now on Destiny 1. So maybe the learning curve, especially for people who have been playing it for a long time, it won't be too steep, or it won't be too disorienting. But who knows? That's just me.
Well, then again, I mean, the only platform that's not locked at 60, or it was unlocked rather, is PC. And I would argue that those people who are on PC who have that kind of graphics card, they probably already game on that level of frame rate.
Sure.
So I doubt that would really be a huge factor for them. But yeah, if it was like a consoles thing, or if PS5, Xbox 2, or whatever they decide to name the next one comes out before the third iteration, then that would be like, oh wow, I need to slow down moment. Right. Yeah. But that's all I got personally.
Cool, all right. Well, thanks everybody who was tuned in to watch. I had fun doing this. And I think Dylan and I are probably going to do something similar to this at a later time. Hopefully, if there's some more content that shows up for Destiny, we'll be sure to be talking about it. So
cool.
All right, dude.
All right. Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Thanks for stopping by. It was a lot of fun. So
yeah, we'll do it again.
All right. See you, everybody.